right, welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And tonight, as promised, every Tuesday, I even got a new overlay made for us, my guy.
Dude, I just busted out a new dance move too.
So real. I'm telling you, you're gonna end up as the little charity thing. I promise you.
Can't wait.
But tonight we've got a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in 49ers news, which is crazy. Again, this is a team that just keeps on giving because there's a lot to talk about tonight. Let's just jump right into it, my man. First things first, Laken Tomlinson, a lot of chatter about him. I think when we talked last, we pegged him as the number one free agent that the 49ers must resign. Was that something that we were on the agreement with?
100%.
Okay, so now we look at it, and today was a deadline to sign him. And if they didn't, which they haven't, they have, is it like 2.3 million in dead money? Do you know the exact amount?
I think it's 1.4.
1.4, 2.3. Either way, they're throwing away money basically by not re-signing him, right? So is that an early indicator? Is that simply they haven't had time to work on it? Laken wants to test free agency. How do you look at this?
Yeah, you got to think that it's an indicator, right? I don't think that any team is in the business of losing money or wasting money, especially if you're going to re-sign a guy. You would think that they would figure it out now before later. And it could possibly mean that the 49ers have another route that they're looking to take. Personally, for me, I would be a little bit skeptical of whatever route that is, just because of, what the offensive line has. I mean, Laken Tomlinson is the most healthy offensive lineman that they had, and every single other offensive lineman has been injured, and Laken has been there every single game since he's, been in the league. And every game he played in, he started. So, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit unfortunate, but I'm leaning more towards this is probably an indicator that he's not coming back to the team.
Okay, well, it looks like we've got Rohan here, and he's the perfect guy to ask because I definitely pulled that from his tweet. So shout out to him. Make sure you go subscribe over there, 49ers Red Zone. But Rohan, what is the dead cap number? Is it 2.3? Is it 1.4? Is it neither? Let us know if you're still in the chat. Would appreciate it. But that being said, yeah, this one's interesting to me. The 49ers, we talked about the trust in this team going forward and building it going forward and how this is their sixth offseason. And I have a lot of trust in them overcoming, learning from, making previous mistakes. But this is one of them that's interesting to me because Laken Tomlinson, much like Buckner, extremely healthy, has always been healthy. So the fact that you're letting these guys walk and you've continued to take chances on guys that are injury prone, it's just interesting to me. Now, I do understand there are teams like Miami that can probably afford him, can pay him a lot more than what the 49ers are willing to do so. And they did seemingly figure this out or think this was a possibility going into last year's draft. Remember, when they drafted Jalen Moore, they specifically said that Moore was there to play guard. That was what Shanahan said. And then we obviously know that Banks is there to play guard. So did they know that this was going to happen? Had they already planned for this? And then I guess the next question is, he says 1.2 million. So 1.2 million in dead cap on the books for 2022. Extension could still be reached by the end of the night, though. It's Marco, by the way. What's up, Marco? Okay, so if that's the case, I don't see it happening. Like, I don't. Like, why would he not want to test free agency? So I think at the very least, even if they bring him back, he's going to want to test. Does that mean he's gone for sure? No, but I don't think that he's going to come back. I mean, let's look at what guards get paid. I think the highest paid guard in the league makes somewhere around 16, 18 million a year. The 10th or 12th highest paid guard makes just over 10 million. So he's going to want somewhere in that 10 to $14 million a year range, I would imagine. Dolphins have a ton of money. He's comfortable with McDaniel. Why would he stay in San Francisco, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, and I mean, a $12 million contract in Miami is much different than a $12 million contract in San Francisco.
It is.
Taxes, all that kind of stuff that the any California team has to deal with. You got to overpay to be able to keep a guy that can make even less, but in a state that doesn't have income tax, right? So that's something to be said. Maybe it is that maybe this means that they're trying to save their money for another position. Obviously, they are more into the defensive line. They need some cornerback help. Maybe they think they have the solutions. Maybe they're going to move Aaron Backs to left guard, which is what he played, in college. And maybe, Jalen Moore ends up sliding into the right guard position. McGlinchey comes back. If Alex Mack comes back another year, maybe they just feel like these guys, moving Aaron Banks to left guard, he'll feel more comfortable, be next to a guy like Trent Williams, who makes everybody look better. I just think that, just last week we were talking about how we trusted this regime. So for us to go 1 week, the first decision that they make and be like, we hate this decision, like, just seems like it's a lot of hypocrisy on our part. So, I mean, we got to make it at least a week. So, in this regime we trust, if this means goodbye to Laken, obviously it's not what I was thinking to do. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the wrong move to do. So, to be determined, I guess.
No, I agree with you, by the way. That's not going to make me lose trust, especially 1 week into this thing. But it is an interesting thing to look at because we thought it was almost a foregone conclusion a week ago that would be the number one thing. But I think that begs a couple questions. One of them is, how much do you trust in Aaron Banks? I mean, we're talking about a kid that hasn't really shown anything. And the little bit that he did showed, it looked like he was overmatched for the NFL game. He then gets injured, doesn't play at all this year. And this was a second round pick. I think only 3 second round picks didn't get any burn this year. One of them was a backup to Tom Brady. One of them was hurt, and one of them was Aaron Banks. So, like, do you have any confidence in this guy? Not that it matters, but like, what's your confidence level?
I feel as if the offensive linemen that I've seen drafted high usually move into the starting lineup very seamlessly. So it does give me some concern that Aaron Banks couldn't make the starting lineup with that team. Now, that being said, he would have to beat out Laken Tomlinson, who I think is a very solid, left guard, because that's his natural position. So is this more of a case of a guy who just is a left guard and only a left guard, and maybe his weakness is he's not good on the opposite side? Like the way his mind works, the way his strengths are, maybe on the moving to a right guard position, just he couldn't figure it out, or it was confusing to him. So maybe he can be somebody who as a left guard could flourish, because he was, I don't know. I don't remember what his draft grade was on other people's boards, but I would assume if the 49ers took him in the second round, he wasn't going to drop that much past the second round. So I'm assuming he's somebody who other teams looked at as could be a starting lineman in this league. Maybe it's just kind of like with Trey. If Jimmy wasn't there, Trey would probably be starting on any other team that didn't have, a guy who took a team to a Super Bowl ahead of him. Maybe Aaron Banks is in the same situation where he would have started on any other team and just couldn't beat out all pro level left guard. And maybe that's the reason why he didn't get any play. And hopefully that's the case, because I expect Trey Lance to have a big year now that he's going to be starting for a full year. And let's hope Aaron Banks is the same way.
Well, and that's the curious case right there, right? I mean, obviously they've got a second-year quarterback coming in, one that hasn't played a ton, one that we definitely believe in, and I know a lot of people in the chat believe in him. But if you're willing to let go of a guard who's been that good for you, then that tells us they have to have confidence in Aaron Banks or a plan to replace Tomlinson one way or another. So, you got to feel good about it. Maybe that means that Banks is going to play right guard and you needed a whole year to get used to it. I've talked to people that play offensive line and they say learning to go from one side to the other is like if you're right-handed and now you have to learn to write left-handed. Like it's that big of a deal. It's not as easy as, oh, you just go from right to left or vice versa. So maybe he just needed a full year to get used to it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah. Well, listen, yes, that could be a solution. You draft those guys, you'll be fine. But yeah, man, it'll be interesting to see how they attack this if in fact Laken Tomlinson is not coming back, and early indications seem to be that that's probably the case. So
You think
let's,
Aaron Banks? Do
yeah,
you
yeah.
think they keep Aaron Banks at right guard? You don't think they move him into left?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to throw out scenarios like, why wasn't he playing? Was it because he wasn't used to playing the right guard position and so they're just going to move him to left? I think that's a scenario, the one that you laid out, or the other option is he just needed a full year to learn the position and so they gave him that time. I don't know. We'll see. I could see either or, to be real with you. It depends on, do they bring in a free agent? Do they trust Jalen Moore? Do they bring back I mean, there's so many scenarios that they could go with here to fill that interior spot. Now, if this is the case, I've also got to imagine that they know something about the Mac front because Mac was hinting at possible retirement. Maybe this is their way of saying, hey, listen, we're cool because we know Mac's going to come back. He always contemplates retirement. I can't imagine that they would let Laken walk and knowing that Mac is retiring. I feel like that would be a lot. Like
Right.
that's a big change for a young quarterback to now jump into. So we'll see.
And anybody that gets put in that left guard position, obviously, I think Tomlinson is a good left guard. But if you're in between Trent Williams and Alex Mack, it makes life a lot easier to have those two guys on the opposite sides of you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, James, I agree with you 100%. By the way, there are way too many people that are calling these guys busts. You need to give these guys 3 years. Like you can't make a decision until 3 years are played. Now there are some guys that come in the league, they let it on fire right away. That's great, but most players they ascend. Brandon Ayuk's a good example. Played well, took a step back, finished the season well. Obviously, we knew Debo was going to be good, but I don't think anybody could have predicted this season. So, really, it's 3 years. Once you get 3 years in, if a guy just doesn't show you anything, then you pretty much know who he's going to be. But none of these guys are bust yet. It's way, way too early for that, in my opinion. Okay, let's get on to this next topic. So, Jimmy Garoppolo, it sounds like they are going to do what they can to trade him by the new league year, March 16th. That is also when his no trade clause expires, or as far as what team, he can't pick what team he goes to. Now, I expect them to do right by him for sure, but do you think that they actually get it done by the new league year, or do you think this thing's going to drag out a little bit?
When's the draft?
It's not till April. Usually end of April, I believe.
Yeah, I feel as if it'll probably be closer to the draft.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
the reason for that is kind of when did the 49ers make the trade for in the draft? Wasn't that like a couple weeks right before the draft or the week before the draft?
I want to say it was like March 12th. It was
Oh, so
early.
it was like a month before the draft?
Oh yeah, no, it was well
Okay.
before the draft. Yeah.
So the reason why I think there's some other dominoes. So I would say it'll be closer to the draft if we don't know what happens with Aaron Rodgers and Russ. If Russ and Aaron come out or the teams come out and say they're staying put, I could see then earlier that Jimmy gets traded. But if those guys are still up in the air, I think that lowers the amount of trade partners. And I think that the 49ers will hold out because
Okay.
there may be a bidding war. And when there's a bidding war, that means you get more if you're the seller, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
I think they would not trade him until they know for sure Russ and Aaron Rodgers aren't going anywhere. So I guess that kind of doesn't answer the question directly, but I think it depends on those two moves first. And then I think they'll make the trade.
Okay, that's totally fair. Mr. Miller brings up a very good point. Combine is where trades happen, and I was listening to Haberman and Middlecoff, and I think it was Middlecoff was talking about the combine and how that works, and basically saying that when you go to the combine, all of these. Oh no, it wasn't them. It was God, I don't remember who it was I was listening to. Anyways, they were talking about the combine and how there's basically like 3 or 4 main restaurants on this strip that everybody goes to. Like
Uh-huh.
all the agents eat there, all the GMs. And even though there's tampering rules, these conversations happen pretty regularly. And so I think he's right about this. I think he's right that this is possibly where a trade could go down. But I agree with you. I think at the very least, these teams have to know where these other players stand. Like, is Watson going to be moved? Is Rogers? Is Wilson? Now, if they know that it's going to be too rich for their blood, or these guys aren't going to be moved, or they have a feeling about those things, then I could see it happening before. But they're at least going to want to know what's going on. My question to you is this: I think a lot of people tend to think that right now his trade value is climbing. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree. I
Yeah.
think that when you look at the people who are definitely available as far as quarterbacks, there's nobody with a better resume than him as far as wins and losses, playoff success, what he's done to be able to take a team to the through the playoffs, leadership, caliber of character. Not to mention, out of all the active core, I saw somebody tweet this. Out of all the active quarterbacks still around, he has the most Super Bowl rings, right? Even though they were as a backup, but he has that championship pedigree, Jesse. He's been on multiple Super Bowl winning teams. So with more and more, and I think after the combine as well, if these um, draft quarterback or the draft class quarterbacks show out to be the way that they've been kind of being deemed right now by the consensus as far as being a really weak quarterback class, the more I think Jimmy's stock rises because he fits the mold of somebody who can show if you build the right type of team around him, meaning a strong defense and a good running game, he can take you to the playoffs and beyond. And I think that means that his stock is going to rise, especially when it looks like there's multiple teams that are looking to make a trade for a quarterback. So that's kind of where I see it, is just more about perfect timing. And that kind of is Jimmy's MO, right? He finds perfect timing, right situation, right system, and he maximizes it. So kudos to him.
Yeah, definitely. I want to throw something out there, and I don't necessarily disagree. I think most people think that his trade value is climbing, but I think that teams might be more hesitant for this reason. Okay, so everybody likes to talk about last year what Sam Darnold went for, which was a haul. It was like a second and a third or something like that. And then you had Carson Wentz, who basically his deal just got escalated to a first. But I think the flip side of that is we just saw both of those trades flop. I mean, completely. Wentz is about to be cut or traded. He's going to get cut. And by the way, they knew what they were getting in Wentz. Wentz had played really well up to an MVP level with that head coach, and they couldn't make it work. Then on the flip side, you've got Darnold, who was only a few years, 3 years into his career. Teams always think, oh, well, this quarterback was in a bad situation. He's got a ton of talent. I can turn him around. Nobody thinks that about Jimmy. Like, they know exactly what Jimmy is, and he's coming from arguably the best offensive mind in football. Who thinks like, oh, Shanahan really screwed him up? I can do better than Shanahan. Probably not many people. And if those people do exist, they're crazy. So, with that being in place, I think that it's possible that those trades could actually work against the 49ers rather than for. Am I off my rocker?
You're not off your rocker, but I would say it's not apples to apples. Sam Darnold, you can't compare with the type of success Jimmy's had with what Sam Darnold has, right? So for Sam Darnold, it was just a young guy that was drafted high that a lot of people saw potential with, and they thought, Adam Gase has the reputation amongst the league, maybe, or at least the media, that he kind of messes up quarterbacks because people saw what Ryan Tannehill was able to do when he got away from Adam Gase, and they thought the same thing would happen maybe with Sam Darnold. But Carson Wentz, he's had more success, and I think that that was more a situation with Frank Reich and belief and all that kind of stuff. I just don't see it as the same because neither of those guys were coming off taking their team to a championship game, conference championship game. Neither of those guys in the previous 3 years had been in deep playoff runs 2 out of those 3 years. So, and we got to be honest, in the 4.5 years that Jimmy Garoppolo has been with the 49ers, he won a lot more games than he lost. He did 2 deep playoff runs, 2 conference championship games, and a Super Bowl appearance. Neither Carson Wentz nor Sam Darnold have that resume. So you can say, yeah, all right, these trades didn't work out. But I could see people in the front office or offensive coordinators and offensive minded coaches looking at that and saying, I don't think anybody's looking at any offensive mind in the NFL looks at Kyle Shanahan and says, this guy's so much better than me. You wouldn't be able to be successful in the league if you didn't have confidence that you were the best guy out there. So if they're like, okay, well, Kyle Shanahan could win with this guy and shown consistently that he could win with this guy, why can't we? And then compared to who else are we going to bring in? So I just think that it's more, I think it's easier to feel comfortable making the trade, making that same Carson Wentz trade for a third and a conditional second for a guy like Jimmy G than it was for a guy like Carson Wentz, because you've never seen Carson have success in the playoffs. You have seen Jimmy have success in the playoffs. Now, us that watched those playoffs very closely know that maybe it wasn't necessarily Jimmy. It was the reason why those teams were winning. I was
wondering where you were going with this.
But as far as just straight on paper, I think it's easier to make that trade for Jimmy than it would be for definitely better than Sam Darnold. And, I would say even for Carson Wentz.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Let me throw this out at you because there is a trend going on in the NFL. Chiefs had Alex Smith, who was 50-26 playing for them. They trade him, and 2 years later, they win a Super Bowl. The Rams had Jared Goff, who was 42-20 for that team. They trade him. Next year, they win a Super Bowl. Jimmy G is 31-14. They're going to trade him. Do they keep that trend going and winning a Super Bowl within the next 2 years? What say you, Suneil?
My bold prediction is when everything is said and done, Kyle Shanahan will have the only person that will have more Super Bowl rings than Kyle Shanahan will be Bill Belichick. And I 100% believe that Trey Lance is going to keep that trend going. And I think he is going to have a ton of success with the 49ers now that Jimmy is gone. And I think that a lot of that success is going to be because of what he saw with Jimmy, being on the sidelines. And I think Jimmy is a great mentor for him. So I 100% believe that trend is going to keep going because what we wanted Jimmy to be better at, I feel like Trey has those abilities, and still has all the talent around him. And yeah, I imagine that the 49ers are going to be extremely successful. And I could see Kyle Shanahan winning 2, maybe 3 Super Bowls with this quarterback.
A little update. Laken Tomlinson's contract voids Friday the 18th, not the 15th, with the 17th game and the Super Bowl being a later date, it pushed things back. So they have a few days.
Okay, cool.
That's good to know. I still don't think anything changes though. I don't think they have him resigned by then. I mean, if I let's just play it out, right? He's about to be 30. He is really only going to get this one real big payday. He's got to bet on himself a little bit, right? He's got to drive his own price up. And to your point, I know that he loves it here in San Francisco. Obviously, he's got the best left tackle in the game that helps him be better and look better. But if you can get paid and pay no state income tax and go play for a guy that you're very comfortable with, man, that's got to be at least a little bit intriguing. So, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But that is good news. That's good news that it is pushed back just slightly. Okay. Let's
What do
move
you
over
think?
to this.
What do you think about?
Yeah. I got to
You
give
gotta
you my
answer your
thoughts on
part.
that. I do. I do because here's the thing. I'm really, really big. I said it earlier in this stream and I've said it a million times over. Year three, 2023, Trey Lance will set himself apart compared to the rest of these rookie quarterbacks. That's been my opinion the whole time. So, with that being said, if I think he's going to take a huge step in 2023, as a part of that step with all the talent that's on this team, I think that means a Super Bowl. Plus, you see, I don't know what's going to happen this offseason with Rodgers and Wilson, but these guys are eventually going to be gone and or they're fading. And then the same thing is going to happen with the Rams. I mean, Aaron Donald's talking about retirement. Maybe he doesn't this offseason, but he does the one after. Stafford hasn't exactly been picture perfect health wise. He's getting a little bit older. I just feel like things are really lining up for the 49ers to be contenders for a while. And I think that second year with Trey is when they really make that push and win a Super Bowl. I think this is the year that he learns how to play the position. Hopefully they make the playoffs. From there, he can get some of that playoff atmosphere under his belt. And I think he makes a giant leap going into that second full year of starting. And that's when the 49ers absolutely take off. So, yes, I do believe that they win a Super Bowl, that they keep this trend going, and they'll do it not this year, but the following year. All right. Well, speaking of Super Bowl teams, the Rams, say that very quietly, the Rams won the Super Bowl. I don't know if you know this. One of the worst Super Bowls ever to watch, by the way. I don't know if it's because the 49ers just got knocked out, but I don't know. That Super Bowl just was not interesting to me whatsoever. I thought the game was overblown. I felt like I was watching the second best team in each conference play each other. Maybe I'm just salty, but either way, are the 49ers too conservative? We just watched the Rams go all in to win a ring. They've been going all in for a while now, and we know this is a copycat league. Does that mean that the 49ers are too conservative, or do you think they're going about this the right way?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of revisionist history. I think that the 49ers are pretty aggressive. You would say, making your left tackle the highest paid left tackle in the league. That's pretty aggressive. A couple years before when they were, 2019 run, they saw that they needed some more help in the receiving core. They went after Sanders, who, people forget now that, he's retiring or whatnot. But Emmanuel Sanders was a beast of a wide receiver, right? So I think that they going after him shows that aggression. I think that they've made trades. Even a trade like DeForest Buckner. People look at that and say, "Oh man, they paid Eric Armstead over Buckner." But you look at the move now; they made the wrong pick with it. It looks like, but Eric Armstead was a guy that is deserving of that contract. And if that first round pick turned into a guy like Tristan Wirfs, if they picked him instead of Kinlaw, you're looking at, man, these guys are aggressive, always looking to, just win. So I think that the 49ers are pretty aggressive. I don't think that they've held back from making certain trades. They would have made the Matt Stafford trade too. But, obviously Kyle Shanahan let that one, Sean McVay was able to close Stafford before Shanahan could. So I think the only thing that maybe you can say, okay, they should have probably pulled the trigger. That's the Tom Brady move, right? That's the one where you look at, they could have done it. But even in the offseason last season, before they picked Trey, they made that call to Green Bay and said, hey, is Aaron Rodgers available? So I think that they are just as aggressive as the Rams. I think they haven't executed as well as the Rams have as far as
Mm.
pulling the trigger on those guys. I think they would. They just, the Rams did it before they could.
Yeah, I think it started with the Khalil Mack as well. Remember, the 49ers were big into that Khalil Mack thing, and sounds like they made a hell of an offer, but the Raiders were like, we're just not trading him to San Francisco. So, they have shown that aggression. They just haven't been able to land it. D Ford is another one. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out for them. I think the 49ers have been pretty aggressive. Now, they may not be going all in and saying, hey, we're going to give our second round pick for a aging pass rusher who's got just this year left on his deal, but they've been aggressive. And I also think that it's overstated how aggressive the Rams have been because, yes, they continue to trade their first round draft picks, but from the second round on since 2017, they've actually had the second most picks in the NFL. So they've built through the draft as well. They just haven't done it through the first round. So I think that over aggression has been, or that aggression's been overstated. Now this year's a different story. They definitely did get rid of pretty much all of their picks to make things happen this year, but it resulted in a win. I think it's hard to copycat that. I really do, because if you look at the Rams, it took them many years. It took them a lot of trial and error to finally get it done. You look at what they did. They brought in Marcus Peters. He wasn't the right guy. They traded him. Had to find a replacement in Ramsey. Drafted Goff. That wasn't the right guy. They had to trade him. Do it with Stafford. Brandon Cooks wasn't the right guy. Trade him. It's like they've made a ton of mistakes along the way, but they've been able to bounce back, and ultimately it paid out for them. I think there was this worry that if the Rams won the Super Bowl, that this would change the trend in the league. It's a copycat league. I just don't see that happening. I think the salary cap, especially this year, is so constricted that it makes it hard for teams to do that. That's one. Two, as long as the Rams don't win it next year, which hopefully they don't, but as long as they don't win it next year, people will forget about it. And when the salary cap balloons up, then it's going to change things anyway. So I'm not too worried about the trend forever changing. I think a lot of people are, but I think the aggression by the Rams has been overstated. And to your point, the under aggression or the conservative nature of the 49ers has been a bit understated, to be real with you.
Yeah, or the lack of aggression for the 49ers has been under over over speculate. Like they
Yeah.
definitely are aggressive. And players they just the Rams capitalized on things that were kind of unprecedented, right? A guy like Jalen Ramsey being on the market is, you don't hear that. We're the best corner in the game, hands down. Young, still healthy, in his prime, is available. So, you saw Seattle try to do it, right? When they traded for Adams, right? Nobody's looking at them and saying, man, Seattle's so aggressive, because it hasn't worked
Right.
out for them. You know what I mean? So with Ramsey and the Rams, I think they're a mixture of, I think sometimes also that by saying, oh, they're super aggressive, they went all in, all this kind of stuff, takes away from the caliber of that team as well. Sean McVay is a really, really good coach. You could have that kind of talent and still not win a Super Bowl. The front office there with the Rams is good at doing what they did, and props to them for winning. But is that a sustainable thing? Are they going to be good for the next 5 to 10 years? I don't know. Sean McVay, you said Aaron Donald has talked about retiring. Sean McVay might not be the coach there anymore, and maybe that was the conversation with the front office. Is like, look, I don't think I want to coach for the rest of my life. I want to be more of a family man and do all this kind of stuff. I'm only going to be here for X amount of years. Let's just go all in, and I promise you I'll get you a Super Bowl. And maybe that's the conversation, and maybe we don't see Sean McVay anymore. And maybe that's why you saw the Rams go like be so aggressive. So
Good point. That's a
we
very good
shall
point.
see once again.
No, I
And
think
Ramsey
that's a
did get smoked in the Super
he
Bowl.
did. Oh my gosh, crazy, right? Like
Yeah.
bad, like
They
real
definitely
bad.
won in spite of Ramsey.
Yeah, for sure. Well, to be fair, that one play, the touchdown on him was that was offense. I mean,
Penalty. That was
that's
a face
if
mask
that's
for
not
sure.
offensive pass interference, then it's impossible to have offensive pass interference. And he did almost pick Burrow right after giving up that first big play to Chase. So, he was in it. But yeah, all for all intents and purposes, that was the worst Ramsey has looked maybe ever. So
I saw on that last play, the one where Aaron Donald like sacked Burrow, there was a still shot of, I don't know if it's true or whatnot. Jalen Ramsey had fallen and Jamar Chase was wide open down the
wide open.
sideline. And that is wild. Ramsey had a bad game, bro, for Ramsey
Oh,
standards for
for
sure.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Okay. Well, we don't know if McVay's sticking around, but we do know that off that Shanahan tree, he's been the most successful, right? And these guys have all had a lot of success, Shanahan included, but he's now made 2 Super Bowls and he just won one. Does this put more pressure on Shanahan to perform and to win? Or is it just, hey, no big deal, keep it moving, we're doing what we're doing over here? How do you see this?
I mean, I think they're gonna say the second part of what you said. No big deal. We're just focused on what we can do here, getting better every single day, every single week. Blah yada 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 yada. But you have to imagine, Jesse, Shanahan is in his room with his wife in the other room, doing whatever. But he's sitting there fuming, like my whole career I am constantly like compared to this guy. They got the head coaching job same time, and Shanahan year after year has outperformed Kyle Shanahan as far as in the regular season, most of the playoffs, and he got he got the quarterback I wanted this offseason. And then he not only gets the quarterback, he got the ring that I needed too. So absolutely, Kyle Shanahan has to be putting way more pressure on himself to be like, is this going to happen for me? I'm sure he's happy for McVay. And, obviously, I think it's a healthy competition. But absolutely, Shanahan has to be like, all right, everybody thought that we're both offensive geniuses. Well, only one of us has a ring. So he has to get that ring, right? So yeah, I think there's tons of pressure on him now.
Well, and not only that, it came within his division and they beat the 49ers to make the Super Bowl. So
Right.
I think that adds pressure as well. And, unless McVay leaves and Donald leaves, like we talked about, this team's going to be around for a while. Like they could be the bugaboo for the 49ers. We talked about how the 49ers had won 6 in a row, but now that they've won the biggest one, what does that do to the psyche? So I think it definitely puts pressure on Shanahan for sure. But when you were talking about it, you know what I imagined? I just imagined like Shanahan's in the other room, and every time his wife's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go cook dinner or whatever," he just grabs a pillow and just yells into it, just like so loud and angry. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine,
Yeah.
honey. Everything's good in here. Just
Yeah, I can guarantee you we're not going to be seeing drunk Kyle Shanahan this offseason. And I could
No.
guarantee you he's not going to be throwing footballs into pizza ovens. I could guarantee you that's not the type of offseason Kyle Shanahan's having this season.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh, here we go. I like a good conspiracy theory. James says, let me bring this up first. Hold on. Ooh, all right. James says, conspiracy theory. What if Kyle let McVay have Stafford because he knew McVay would retire? What are your thoughts on this one?
All right. I would be like, he said, let McVay have Stafford. Look, Kyle Shanahan doesn't let McVay have anything, right? This dude beat McVay, 6 times in a row? And McVay was over there in that last game, week 18, jumping up and down with his team in the second quarter, thinking that he's finally going to get that win over Kyle Shanahan. There's no way in my mind that Kyle Shanahan gives McVay anything. These guys are friends, but they're bitter rivals. Not one of them wants to give the other person a leg up. McVay took Stafford out of the grasp of Kyle Shanahan. There's no way that that's the case. And whether or not McVay retires or not, I think Kyle Shanahan likes the competition. And I don't see Kyle Shanahan as somebody who's trying to shy away from the challenge. Yeah, but that's a good one, James.
I did. No, I like it.
That's a good one.
I love a good conspiracy theory. I'll say this. He probably looked at it and was like, all right, you got Stafford. It's not going to matter, though. I'm still going to beat you. Like, push come to shove, I'm going to beat you. And he did. He was 2-0 against them, and then the playoffs happened. But, I think deep down, and he thought that he could still school McVay, and was doing so up until he wasn't. So, it's just the way that it works. But, James, we appreciate the donation and the conspiracy theory. Here you go.
That one gets me all the time. It's the pelvic thrust at the end that just gets me each time.
It's so good. It's so good. Oh my gosh. What's up, admins? Where you guys at? Why am I having to block a user? I give you guys wrenches for a reason. You're like the wrench crew. What's up? Golly. These guys. Jeez, man. At least it wasn't that bad. It was just an advertisement. No big deal. Yeah, this is a good point. So real quick, we can talk about the Rams and how things are going to change for them. We don't know what's going to happen with Darnold. We don't know what's going to happen with McVay, but what we do know is they're losing their left tackle. Weddle's going to retire again. Like, he was just brought out of retirement for a playoff run. He's going to be gone. This team's going to change pretty drastically. But the one thing that I think people need to realize is that they're going to have even more money to play around with, because Gurley's finally coming off the books, I believe. They also have, I think the cap hit for Goff drops a little bit. So crazy enough, Goff and Gurley took up a big chunk of that team's salary, and they still won a Super Bowl. That's crazy.
And you got to understand that they just became a destination. They were already a destination because they're, the team in LA and all that kind of stuff. But coming off a Super Bowl, they're going to get people that come on team-friendly deals just because they want to go win a ring, right? We saw, Tampa Bay was able to do it. When Tom Brady went there, players were willing to go there even if they weren't making as much money, because they were going to go chase a ring. People have done it with Kansas City, guys coming out of retirement to go play in Kansas City, stuff like that. So I think the Rams will be all right, because all of those guys, those vets that are just, made all their money already and now maybe looking just to be part of a team that's competing for a championship, they'll go play, with the Rams on a team-friendly deal just to be in LA and, compete.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple guys are saying go get Von Miller. It weakens the Rams. Yeah, I would love to have Von Miller for a year. I think that would be fantastic. I don't see it happening, but I would definitely love it. Niner by Nature says, Jesse, does Trey know the playbook? Kyle said he memorized it in camp, but players on the team are saying otherwise. He absolutely knows it. By the way, this was something that Kyle said, I don't know, like 10 weeks into the season. But his quarterback coach was on this very channel and said that he had memorized it in about 3 weeks. And then that was later confirmed by Kyle. So I have a hard time believing that he doesn't know the playbook. Now, I don't know what the players are saying. What I would think is that he doesn't know it as far as when he's playing. He doesn't know the ins and the outs. If he's seeing specific coverages, where is he going? That's going to come with time. But as far as actually knowing the plays and memorizing them, yeah, he had that down very, very quickly. Executing it is a very different thing, though. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to jump out of here. If anybody's watching on any other platform other than YouTube, make sure you come over to YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you never miss an episode. And you see it right here on the overlay. go subscribe to my guy, Suneil, at So Real Sports Talk. Link is also down in the description. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday, all through the off season. So get ready, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. I always like to say East and West. But yeah, we appreciate y'all. Anything you want to say, Suneil, before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, just want to thank all you guys in the chat, and obviously we know that the 49ers aren't going to be playing any type of football for a long time, but that doesn't necessarily mean not to keep tapping in with us. We got a lot to talk about, and we definitely are thinking about ways to get you guys more involved in the show as well. So definitely make sure you're subscribed to Jesse. Most of you probably already are. And yeah, come over to my channel, subscribe there too. I got some good content over there, and got some good guys that come on my streams as well. So appreciate the time always, guys.
All right, y'all. Have a good night.